So hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see here, we've got the Scram 411 from Royal Enfield. Now these come in 5 different colours, this one being the graphite red today, and it's been kindly lent by Royal Enfield for a couple of weeks, so we've got this to test. What we're going to do today is we're going to go through some of the specs on this bike, not in too much detail. There are plenty of videos out there that do that. We're going to go through a few of them, and then we're going to go for our first ride and first impressions. So price point, the bike starts at £4,849, which is very good value for what you get. It has a single cylinder 4-stroke, and this is a 411cc engine that is air cooled and also oil cooled. So the engine's 23 brake horsepower, so not groundbreaking figures, but I'll explain a little bit how this feels when we're on the road. And also you've got 32 Newton meters of torque, which comes in at around 4,250 RPM. Gearbox on the bike is a 5-speed, and on the front you've got a 19-inch wheel and a 17-inch on the back. Front tyre is 100 profile, and then you've got a 120 on the back, and the tyres are made by Seat, C-E-A-T, which is an Indian brand. Now the bike has some similarities to the Himalayan. This is actually called the Himalayan Scram 11, and the bike has the same frame, same engine, a lot of the same components. The Himalayan comes with a 21-inch front wheel, so more off-road focused, whereas this, as I say, is the 19-inch wheel and a bit more on-road or commuter focused. You've got a single-sided disc on the front, which is 300 millimeters, and that's on a 2-piston Byberry caliper, which is by Brembo. On the rear, you've got a 240 millimeter disc with a single pot caliper. The bike is very basic. It has dual ABS, no riding modes, anything like that. The front forks are unadjustable, and they're 41 millimeter forks with 190 millimeters of travel. So you've got a lot of travel front, and also on the back you've got 180 millimeters of travel, which is on a monoshock, which is preload adjustable only. Now the curb weight of this bike without fuel is 185 kilos, so not too heavy. And the seat height is 795 millimeters, which is 5 millimeters lower than the Himalayan. Fuel tank on the bike, you've got 15 litres, which gives 3.18 litres per 100 kilometres, roughly about 250 miles per tank. The bike does come with a bash plate underneath the engine, and you've got 200 millimetres of clearance, ground clearance on that. Now Royal Enfield say that this bike is targeted at the urban environment, so great commuter, a little bit green laning, off-roading at times. It's got a single headlight at the front and standard bulbed indicators. Now I actually like the paint scheme on this bike. It's like a metallic grey, and then you've got the red accents. The seat, as I said, is 795 millimeters. It's quite sculpted at the front, so for the shorter rider you can get your feet flat-footed. Comes with a side stand only, not a centre stand. Got some grab rails on the back for a pillion. Seats well padded for a pillion, and you've got the high mud guards. Now one thing I would say is that the exhaust, single-sided exhaust on here, I've seen it in other videos, so they all do the same. You can look there, it's just gone a bit coloured from the heat. Now I presume there's a catalytic converter in there, and it's creating a little bit of heat and discolouring the pipe, so that would be one of the negatives from me. I think it absolutely looks terrible, and I'll be always polishing that off. So if any of you own one of these and you have a solution or why it does this, I presume it's heat, then just leave a comment below. The wheels, you've got spoked rims, and these are tubed rims. The spokes look really nice, chrome spokes, so good quality. Like I say, you've got a monoshock tucked in underneath there, preload only, just at the bottom, and a little look at the engine bay. So you've got some nice fins on top of the head just there for the air cooling, and then also you've got the oil cooler just tucked in just here with a guard on it as well. Horns positioned just behind this little side plate. Mud guards are plastic on the front. And the rear. Looks like you've got a catalytic converter just in the downpipe as well. Like I say, you've got a good bash guard, sump guard underneath there, and also the cowling that goes around the headlight is also made of some kind of cast metal. You've got some nice gaiters on the forks there, like I say, 190mm of travel. Now it is a bit windy today, so if the wind's disturbing, I do apologise. The mirrors are very stalky. One thing I don't like about the mirrors is it actually says on the bottom items are closer than they appear. I wish the company had put standard mirrors on there. I had a guy following me just now coming down and I actually thought he was tailgating me. Not impressed with the magnified mirrors. Switch gear, so you've got basic hazard warning lights, start stop, you've got a mode button just on the front there, and then your starter. You've got headlights, flash, main, dipped, indicators and a horn. And on the clocks, very basic, down to earth. You've got gear indicator, which I absolutely love. I wish the Interceptor had a gear indicator, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that the Continental GT does either. So great that it's got a gear indicator on this bike. This model's done about 1,915 miles, so we intend to put some miles on it over the next 2 weeks. It's got a good fuel gauge, and also it's got the trip or the navigation module on this motorcycle. I'm not sure how to run that, so I'll be looking up online how to use that, but it's a little bit like the B-Line navigation system, and it's a nice touch that they put that on this motorcycle. Clutch lever, non-adjustable, and the brake lever also non-adjustable. Chain drive, you've got a nice cover over the sprockets and chain just there, and also some nice rubberized rear foot pegs for carrying a pillion. Now every review I've seen on the Scram 411, people tend to like it. Initial rides, I've only been out on it 5 minutes so far. Just wanted to give you a quick walk round and give you a few specs on the bike before we take it out for a longer run. You can see there the Byberry calipers and the disc on the front with the Seat tyres. Kind of an on-off-road tyre, but quite a good feel. Now coming down here just now, the bike actually turns in quite nicely with having that 19-inch front wheel and being on the same chassis as the Himalayan. It does turn a little bit better than the Himalayan, and I would imagine you can get some aftermarket or genuine accessory luggage rack and things on the back there to put some luggage on this thing. Okay, this is how the bike looks with me sat on it. I'm 6'2" tall, and I've got an inside leg of 32 inches. So as the bike is, I can flat foot it very easily. Okay, so let's get back on the bike and take you for a little spin, give you our first impressions, and then we'll be following that up with a final thoughts and final ride video in a couple of weeks. Okay, let's see how she sounds. So if you were off-roading and standing up on this bike, the bars are a little bit low to be able to do anything decent, but if you're just doing a bit of green laning, then it would be perfectly adequate for those type of situations. So we're just down, lovely evening tonight, down at Glastondock. A little bit of a storm over the mountains just there. But yeah, super excited to be on the Scram 411. Heard so much about it, and so far it's a cracking little bike. Now, one of my niggles with the Interceptor 650 was the gear indicator. The only bit of technology that I wanted on that bike, and it didn't have it. And I'm really happy to say, like I mentioned, this one has the gear indicator. Very simple, no modes, dual ABS, that's all you need. Now the seat I mentioned, with it being very sculpted at the front, is very, very comfortable actually. Now as you can see, the yellow poles are up now, so we've got average speed cameras all the way down here. Now I'm not worried about that because the Scram 411, as in the name, it's a 411cc engine with about 24 horsepower so not much chance of me speeding down this road. But saying that, I'm gonna come up the motorway shortly to see how it fares on the motorway. I've heard it's perfectly adequate to cruise along at 70 miles an hour. I believe it's got a top speed of about 80-85, and that's your lot. But I think it's enough for a bike like this. Seating position's really comfy, my knees are not bent too much. Gears are very precise, nice light clutch action. Keep going for that 6th gear. I was doing that on the Interceptor too, so no worries. Just need to look at my gear indicator. But it's got nice torque compared to the BHP, so it doesn't matter what gear you're in, you just open the throttle and she picks up quite nicely. Like I say, steering wise, with that 19-inch front wheel, it's very, very nice, flickable. I think a 19-inch front wheel is pretty perfect for the English roads, where you've got potholes and little ruts and channels and things sometimes in the road. Generally, a smaller wheel will kind of track into that and disturb the bike a little bit, whereas the 19 or the 21-inch front wheels tend to ride over most things. Now, with it being a naked, you're going to get some wind blast, especially on fast roads or motorways, like any other bike. But I'm sure you can get screens, aftermarket screens for these. So we'll just do a left just here, head down towards Walling's Ice Cream Farm. Suspension actually feels very, very nice, very plush, with it having plenty of suspension travel. Really nice. Foot pegs and bars, I'm not feeling any vibrations through those. Other people have said on the motorway above 70, 75, around there, you get a little bit of vibration through the foot pegs, but we'll test that shortly. The only thing I'd have to change immediately is those mirrors. They just magnify everything behind you. Don't like the look of those. But that's it's a small change. Most people change mirrors on bikes these days. Maybe some nice bar end mirrors will go well with this. Now, my expectations of this bike, I really expected it to be good anyway, because of the Himalayan and how successful that bike has been for Royal Enfield. Really, the Himalayan is a continent crosser, even though it's only got a 411cc engine. People have really toured the world on those bikes, and I also think this is a perfect commute bike, or just a weekender, or the odd green lane here and there. Really does suit that kind of style, kind of vibe, and also the price is very good as well. Now, if any of you are wondering what jacket I've got on, a lot of you ask what jackets I use. These are from Merlin, and Merlin's a UK company. Great jackets. This one is the summer jacket, so this is called the Shenstone, and it's got mesh panels for plenty of airflow through. Today, it's been quite warm actually. It's got up to 22 degrees. I think that's the warmest it's been in Lancashire so far this year. So I thought I'd put a summer jacket on, with it being early evening after work on a Friday. And also, as the bike is kind of a Scrambler type, I thought I'd put my Array Tour X4 helmet on. And I'm glad I did actually, because this helmet's got lots and lots of ventilation. Great helmet if you're thinking of going abroad in this summer heat. Great bike for these back roads, small villages and towns that we have in Lancashire. A great area actually, because you've got 20 minutes north of here, you've got the Lake District. Straight in front of you, you've got the North Yorkshire Moors. So if you do get up this way, plenty of riding, good scenery. Now, it's kind of difficult to look at competition for this bike because of the low cc engine at 411. You've got a lot of scramblers and things out there on the market that are very much a higher cc bike. so it's hard to do an apples to apples comparison with those. I think this really has a little market of its own, and I believe the sales on these have been very good for Royal Enfield. Now I think if you're on fast A roads on this bike and you're wanting to take a car or two or a line of cars, I think that's where you're going to struggle a little bit. You open the throttle and you have to wait for those RPMs and speed to build up a little bit. But if you're in the urban towns and cities, you'd have no issues with this bike. And also in the countryside like we're in today. Just a perfect bike, really. Okay, let's take you on a bit of motorway. I'll see how she fares. Now, it'll be a bit of a wind noise, guys, so apologies for that, but at least we can see how she gets on a little bit of motorway work. Now, there's no rev counter on this bike, so I'm not exactly sure what RPM she's doing, but that's 60. Let's take her up to 70. So that's 70 just now, and a little bit of vibration through the bars, a little bit through the foot pegs. Obviously you would expect that from a single. Wind blast, pretty clean air. A little bit of vibration coming up through the seat as well. I think on a long trip with lots of motorway work, it's not the best ideal bike for that. Also the mirrors, absolutely useless at this speed. A lot of vibrations, and also those magnified cars coming up behind me. I haven't got a clue how close they are, to be honest. So when you're overtaking, like here, I'd love to overtake this lorry in front. Doing a shoulder check and passed. Nice evening, lots of people just outside the pub, which is where I'm heading now for a shandy and a bowl of chips. So yeah, the Royal Enfield Scram 411. First ride so far, very pleased with it actually. Very nice little bike, great value for money. And let's put some miles on this over the next couple of weeks, and then come back and give you a final video with final thoughts on what I think of this bike and how we've got on with it. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and also if you can give the video a big like, guys, that really helps the channel. And we'll catch you on another video soon. Ciao for now.